I've been a seeker as you were, since I was a kid. I really, really wanted to know what was life about. I was an unhappy camper and I just wanted to get what's life about. And I did what most people do is I went after these goals to be happy, and I didn't work. I mean, I got a little happy and then it went away. And so I really wanted to dive more deeply into what is this thing that I call happy for no reason. It's also called unconditional happiness, lasting happiness. It's an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on our circumstances. And it's the only way we can really be happy. It's the only freedom there really is. Because if we're happy because of anything,
it's going to change.
It's going to change, and there it goes, and there goes your happiness. It's fleeting.
Right.
So what we really want is that inner state of peace and well-being, which ultimately is the truth of who we are.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be talking with my longtime friend, Marci Shimoff, who is featured along with me in Rhonda Byrne's movie and book, The Secret. Marci is a celebrated transformational leader and a #1 New York Times bestselling author of Love for No Reason and Happy for No Reason, as well as 6 of the top-selling titles in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Over 15 million of her books have sold worldwide, making her one of the top-selling female nonfiction authors of all time. When you started reading The Greatest Secret, Rhonda's new book, what is it that struck you most when you were reading it?
Well, first of all, I was thrilled to read it. As you know, we were both in The Secret, and The Secret really deals with one sort of area of life and manifesting. Right. And what I feel about The Greatest Secret is that it is about the biggest truth in life, the biggest question of life. Why are we here? What are we doing here on the planet? And what is the whole meaning of all of this? And so I was thrilled to see Rhonda go into this in such a deep and profound way. So I am most struck by the depth of truth and wisdom in what The Greatest Secret reveals, and how it does it in really simple terms.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of it. It's great. And the directness too.
Yeah.
Rhonda has evolved a lot since we met her when we were filming The Secret. We didn't even know what it was going to be at the time. She was just interviewing us, and we said, okay, sure, we'll talk about that, whatever.
Right. No idea. No idea at all. And boy, did that have an energy and a life of its own, which I think was really an important thing. I mean, I think, the thing about The Secret is The Secret is about how the power of our minds and how we use our minds to manifest and be co-creators in life, and how that power that we have inside of ourselves, which is fabulous. To me, it's about manifesting in the outer world. And the thing about The Greatest Secret is that it's about opening up to the truth of life.
Right.
Manifesting is fabulous and it has its place, but there's a deeper and more important truth of life, which is, this whole field of consciousness and awareness and what's spoken about in The Greatest Secret. And so, yeah, it's been quite a journey since The Secret. I mean, as you said, Hale, we had no idea what was going to come of that. And I don't know if you remember sitting on the couch at a TLC meeting when Rhonda actually first previewed The Secret.
Oh, I do. There? I remember us all sitting there. We were the first people to actually see the movie.
That's right.
I do remember that. That was fun.
So, what I see that Rhonda does is she is a great messenger for the masses.
Yes.
Truth teller for what is available at the moment, what's important at the moment. And back when The Secret came out, I think that was such an important shift for people to make from a victim kind of a consciousness, or from a consciousness of feeling at effect of life, to a consciousness of being, oh, my mind actually helps create my reality. Right, that was important then. And I think what's important now is that so many people are starting to wake up, or waking up to this It's used in so many different terms: enlightenment, awakening. That was, I think, reserved for so few people in history, the Buddhas and the Christs and those beings. And now it feels as though it's the time for masses to wake up
Yeah.
to who we are.
Yeah, it's good news for all of us because that one awareness that we all are is waking up instead of through a chosen few. It's waking up through actually through all creation, but specifically, it seems way more available to the human consciousness. And I think it's a really blessed time for us all to be alive, even though it's also a challenging time.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting too, as I've been working with people. Well, I've been doing this work for a lot longer than The Greatest Secret's been out. But since the Greatest Secret's been out, I've been noticing that it even gave me permission before I reserved it for our retreats or our advanced courses and things like that to really just talk right from truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm interviewed now, I just go right for it. And I've been really surprised how open people are to this message because it really resonates. People really are tired of suffering and they're ready for something totally different, radically different.
I so agree with that. I mean, just a little side note: in many ancient scriptures or prophecies, it's been spoken about this time, that this
Right.
actually is the time of an awakening. And so it's kind of cool that it's happening as predicted thousands and thousands of years ago. And I think that a lot of what's happened that I've seen, and I know you've seen this, Hale, is that we had so much focus for decades on achieving, and let me get this. It's the I'll be happier when syndrome. I'll be
Yes.
happier when I have the better job and the more money and a better house. I'll be happier when I get married, or I'll be happier when I get divorced. And it's all that attention on the outside. And I think that many people got a lot of what it was they thought they wanted to be happy, and they still weren't. I know that was true for me. I worked really, really hard to get everything I wanted so that I could be happy, so that would bring me what I thought was that freedom in life. And after enough getting of things, and you get happy for a little while, and then you go back to sort of normal, it becomes evident that that's not what it is we all really most deeply want. And I think that's what's happening for so many people. They're saying, okay, yeah, I have some good things in my life, but still something else is missing. And that's what I want. And I love that that's what people are experiencing now, because that is what I think helps us go, oh, how do I find this other missing element? And that's what The Greatest Secret is about. To me, that's what the Sedona method is all about.
Well,
It's
but
how
it's also what your books, Happy for No Reason and Love for No Reason, are about. And even though I know you don't consider yourself a non-dual teacher, you have wonderful pointers in both of those books. So part of what I'd love to share today is knowing that we're talking mostly around the opportunity that The Greatest Seeker is presenting for all of us. I would love for you to cherry pick a few things from those wonderful books. Both are pointing, honestly, I believe, at the same thing using just different terminology and different words. And so if you could share just a little bit about some of the key things that you've been talking about that are really supportive of this direction, I'd love that. So let's just jump in with that and we'll see
okay.
where that goes.
So, I've been a seeker, as you were, since I was a kid. I really, really wanted to know what was life about. I was an unhappy camper, and I just wanted to get what's life about. And I did what most people do, is I went after these goals to be happy, and I didn't work. I mean, I got a little happy and then it went away. And so I really wanted to dive more deeply into what is this thing that I call happy for no reason. It's also called unconditional happiness, lasting happiness. It's an inner state of peace and well-being that doesn't depend on our circumstances. And it's the only way we can really be happy. It's the only freedom there really is. Because if we're happy because of anything,
it's going to change.
It's going to change, and there it goes, and there goes your happiness. It's
Right,
fleeting.
right, right.
So what we really want is that inner state of peace and well-being, which ultimately is the truth of who we are. So
Right.
what we're really talking about when I talk about happy for no reason is I'm talking about that inner state of awakening, of consciousness, of awareness, of the truth, our essence. Our true essence is happiness, and that's spoken about in The Greatest Secret. That is who we are. Anything that is not that is just a belief, a thought, an overlay over what is the essence of who we are. I mean, every awakened being, every spiritual teacher, every master has spoken about this from time immemorial. And I think, okay, if there's a consistent message that's being said over time by those awakened ones, let's listen to that. There's got to be wisdom in that. And that's what they all say. We are, in essence, our essence is happiness, our essence is love, our essence is divinity. And our purpose here on this planet is to wake up to that essence of who we are. And and what I say in Happy for No Reason is that when we are happy for no reason, we aren't looking to extract our happiness from our life circumstances, but rather we're bringing our happiness, we're bringing our essence, our unfettered, our uncluttered, our open essence to life experiences. And then all of life changes for us. And not only that, when we shift everybody around us. Now, there's been a lot of scientific research about that. And that's why, hallelujah for anyone waking up to this, to the greatest secret, because when, as one person shifts, people around them start to shift. It's an energy.
Yes, it is. Very, very well put. And yeah, it's so simple. Yet I think that's part of the reason we miss it. We've just been habituated for at least this lifetime, and if you believe in other lifetimes or memories of them, you've been banging your head against the same wall for a long time. And what's really nice is that we are ready now to take happiness directly from the source. And happiness is actually who we are. Lester Levinson, my mentor, the man who really inspired me to still be doing this work after going on 45 years, I used to say, happiness is you being you, not the limited you or the you that you often believe you are, but that changeless, timeless, spaceless, effortless you that's always at the heart of every experience. And again, it's so wonderful the more we recognize that. It just changes everything.
So many people talk about it in different ways, the ego and the soul, or the small self and the big self. And what I'm seeing is that it's a matter of perspective. One of the things I loved her, Rhonda's example in The Greatest Secret about is it the Rubin painting?
That, I don't know if it's a Rubin, but it is that paint.
It's a painting of you either see it as a vase or you see it as two women looking at each other.
Right.
And it's just a matter of perspective. And I think that, to me, that's the perfect analogy about the small self and the big self, the personality and the soul. It's where is our attention? Is our attention on me, the personality, the thoughts, the feelings, the body, all of that? Or is the attention on me, the infinite state of awareness? And what's in the foreground? And it's not that the other doesn't, well, on some plane, the other doesn't exist, the body and all of that. But I'm not at the place where I get that. So for me, it's just a matter of what's really in the foreground. Is the awareness more real than the identification with the personality? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, what's interesting is that as you recognize that you are that pure awareness, that's the heart of experience, you discover that it's not even about foreground and background. If you look in, which is, a lot of us think we need to look inside to find ourselves, at least those of us who have been seeking for a while. the more deeply you look in, the more you feel and see and experience this awareness that you are. But you're also seeing awareness when you look out too. The reason people talk about the world as being an illusion is because we think that these forms are real and solid and apart from awareness. But if you really examine your direct experience, you'll see that when you see a candle or flowers or a plant or a wall or a person, you're experiencing that in awareness. It's appearing in awareness. So the reason teachers talk about it as an illusion is because we forget that everything that we're experiencing is in that one awareness that we are. So when we're looking out, we're seeing awareness too. And as you discover that from your own living experience, the distinctions drop away. So you're always relating to that self that we all are. And that's such a wonderful, wonderful experience for the body mind. Awareness is unchanged by it. But the body mind, the you and I that we often believe we are when we're confused or forget, that is so benefited by even just a little recognition that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not, that is something that I'm aware of. And that distinction is so small, but it's huge in our experience. When we get lost in a story, we start to feel like I am that person in that story. But as soon as we recognize we're the one who's aware of it, the story no longer has the same hold on us. And so when we're looking out and when we're looking in, we're seeing the same thing. And it's beautiful.
Mm. So, Hale, that is beautiful. And as you say that, I'm very aware that the mind can't get it from the level of the mind.
Right, exactly.
And so the natural tendency is, oh, I want to get it. I want to try, I want to get it. And it's not that. Of course, the greatest secret, I keep looking down because I have it right here. The greatest secret
it's
is,
behind me.
yeah, it's not something that we can try to get. It's something to, well, I really appreciated the way that Rhonda spoke about just opening to awareness and also embracing. And this for me has been a huge help from the Sedona method. I've been a trier from the way back. Very skilled at trying. And
although I think you often sell yourself short.
Thank you. I had in the past been very skilled in trying. And now it's actually a matter of welcoming.
Yes.
Welcoming and embracing. And that shift for me has been such an enormous, I thank you for that, because that has been an enormous help in my life. That rather than resisting anything, rather than resisting any negative thoughts or resisting any feelings, or resisting even that tendency to try and then to be saying to myself, well, stop trying. All of that to open up to the welcoming and embracing of that. And, Hale, I'm going to turn the tables a little bit and ask you a question, because
sure,
I would love for you to explain, as you have to me before, but I think it's so useful to explain why the welcoming works.
Oh, that's actually a good question. When I first started talking about welcoming back in the early 90s, I believe, I didn't even recognize this at the time. The different parts of the Sedona method have come out of me I'm in front of whoever I'm in front of, an individual or a group, and Hale is not there. So what comes through is what the group needs at the moment or the person needs at the moment. And this started coming through. And then also at the same time, I met Francis Lucille. And at the time, one of the things, even though he didn't do it as a technique, he did it more as an exploration. One of the things he was talking about is welcoming. So that was a nice inner validation that I was going in the right direction. But the reason the welcoming is so powerful is that awareness that you are, that beingness that you are, is all welcoming. It's already that. So when you, even if you're identified as a person align yourself a little more with that, you have universal support, because that awareness that we all are, it doesn't use language, but it's the equivalent of saying yes to all that is experienced. It's an inner yes saying, it's a welcoming, it's an allowing. And it allows things to come without resistance and allows things to go without clinging. And that's actually what's natural. And the wonderful things in your book and the wonderful things in the teachers in The Greatest Secret, but also there's wonderful things the teachers in the original Secret talk about too. But the things that work the most effectively in life, I've found, are the things that are most aligned with what is natural. It's actually easier to allow or welcome than to resist. And resistance, like they say in Star Trek, resistance is futile. And Carl Jung says, what you resist persists. Mm-hmm. Yet that welcoming, that allowing, that being present with what's being experienced, that is a tremendous door opener, because it has this natural support behind it, because it's what's natural.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for that. Yeah, well, I can tell you it's definitely always so helpful in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know in both of your books you have tips for people or suggestions for people. Is there anything that comes to mind as something you want to share with all of us right now?
Sure. I'll share a couple of things.
And if you feel you need to share something else first, I kind of threw that at you. If there's something else, a bridge you want to build before you share it, that's fine too.
I think there's steps.
Okay, great.
I think, in other words, I think that people are where they are.
Yes.
And that for some people, it's like, okay, let me, how do I say this? Improve the personality.
Oh, yes, that's a very valid step. Absolutely.
And then there's let me align with what is true. And it's not that they're mutually exclusive, but I think that they need, sometimes people, it needs to go in order. So there's this concept that we have a happiness set point. And this is something that's been scientifically shown, that we have a happiness set point, and it's 50% genetic. We're born with it. It's only 10% our circumstances, which is why our circumstances don't actually ever bring us happiness. And it's 40% our habits of thoughts and behavior. And that's the piece that we can really shift to raise what's called our happiness set point. It's like our thermostat setting. And then there are scientists like Dr. Bruce Lipton in the field of epigenetics. He wrote The Biology of Belief, who say that even our genes, our genetics change when we change our habits of thoughts and behavior, which means 90% of our happiness set point can shift when we shift our habits of thoughts and behavior. And by the way, our genes, I inherited some unhappy genes, fabulous, loving parents, but I came from with a gene pool of a lot of angst. There was a genetic gene pool, Jewish, of sort of feelings of persecution and that kind of thing. And I believe that when we do our own healing, that we are healing, they say, 7 generations behind us and 7 generations forward. And so I think that many of us are here on the planet right now to be shifting the genetic material for the past and the future, which of course in non-dual philosophy is all one. There is
right. No such thing. Right.
But I'm still in this other.
No. But again, no. At the moment, we're just having a conversation between the two of this. But the people watching this are part of this conversation. In fact, I invite everyone, as we talk about things, to see how it relates to where you are, and then to continue this conversation with the people you care about and keep this exploration going and honor where you're at, wherever you're at in this moment. Whatever you can relate to, whatever you can't relate to is all fine. Just take what you want from all these conversations I've been having with all these wonderful people and just work with that which you resonate with. Yeah. So yeah, all the stuff you're saying, it's just good for us all to hear how science is discovering the same things that yogis and saints and sages and have been talking about for literally thousands of years.
It really is. It's thrilling. And of course, science isn't quite caught up with findings of the masters and of the awakened ones, of which many people are becoming the masters of their own lives now.
Right.
But this idea of a happiness set point and that we can raise our happiness set point, what I really believe is that as we raise our happiness set point, we actually become more in touch with, awake to that essence of who we are.
Yes.
So the tools that we talk about in the habits of happy people, the main difference between happy people and everybody else is that they have different habits. And one of the biggest habits is that they don't believe their thoughts. They
Yes.
recognize that their thoughts are not who they are. And
Yes.
to me, that's one of the biggest things. And there are wonderful tools there for helping with that. I talk about the Sedona method in Happy for No Reason as one of the wonderful tools for recognizing that we aren't our thoughts. The other thing, Hale, that I want to bring up is something that you and I both, we have a teacher in common that we
Yes.
studied with. And he spoke very much about the subtle body,
Yes. Yes.
and that it's not just all in this gross physical body that awareness is coming through. There's a subtle body. The whole chakra system is part of the subtle body, and that the vitality of what he calls the prana vitality, and prana is just life force, breath,
Yes.
life force, actually will help determine our ability to experience this awakening. And so it's very important that we take care of the prana system, our vitality system, in a way that helps support this opening and experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it really, really helps. In my experience, it's not a requirement, but it is an amazing aid. Although many people who do this work, not just with the Sedona method, but a study with any of the teachers that are pointing at the truth of who we are, start to notice that there is an energetic system. They can feel energetic shifts. That's very common experience. It's almost universal when people start releasing with the Sedona method. But it's not just with the Sedona method. Shakti Catalina Maggi, who is becoming a good friend and one of the other teachers in The Greatest Secret, before she awakened to the truth of who she was, she had very profound Kundalini openings. And sometimes the Kundalini awakening or opening or practice or process comes first, and sometimes it comes afterwards. But it's important to be open to it and to know it's natural. It's a part of the natural unfoldment, and to be cooperative. There's a huge misconception in the West that Kundalini is hostile or is bad for you or can cause these negative things to happen in your life. And that energy, which is a natural integrated part of the human body mind system, is always wanting to support you in you discovering the truth of who you are. And the way she does it is by helping realign how energy flows in your body. And the thing you can do the most is, if you don't have a qualified Kundalini teacher, which is these days very, very, very hard to find, is to just get yourself out of the way as much as possible. And just instead of fighting these energetic shifts that are happening, open to them, surrender to them, nurture them, give them your loving focus, and listen to what your intuition will tell you what you can do to support it. So that's my take
Yeah,
on it.
I have to say you asked me what are some of the things from Happy for No Reason or Love for No Reason. For me, some of the most important pieces of advice or wisdom have to do with listening to your soul, listening to that knowingness of what to do, and not getting caught up in what the world has us doing. And an example for me is workaholism. I've been a very, very, as you know, Hale, I've been very, very attached to working hard.
Yeah, but you're doing so much better. It's
I know. That's
amazing.
why I said I
I'm
have been very attached in the past.
yes.
And this teacher had said to me one day, he said, this is not what life is about. You're really damaging your vitality, your prana vitality.
Yes.
And I made some choices. There are, I believe, certain lifestyle choices that we make to support our growth. That doesn't mean that I didn't stop working. It just
Right.
means I shifted what I was doing in my life to more support a state of inner peace and well-being, the state of happy for no reason. For me, it's about exercising. It's about taking time to really breathe in life, to be in nature, to meditate, and all of those things, but to do them in a way that's in support of my life force. I actually dedicated, every year I pick a theme for the year. And a couple of years ago, my theme for the year was life force or vitality or prana. And that became my guiding light for the year, so that whatever I was doing, whatever choices I was making, were in support of that life force. And that to me is a very, very important thing. We all know what it is for each of us. Sometimes it needs to be perhaps a shift in how we relate to people, because a certain way of relating is not supporting our life force, or certain relationships. For others, it's how they're taking care of their body. For others, it's their thoughts. For others, there's some wonderful practices of the heart. I mean, heart math, the Institute of Heart Math that you and I
Yes.
are familiar with, have some very simple practices. The inner ease technique, where you're just taking a moment, putting your hand on your heart, breathing in and out through your heart, and breathing in love and ease and compassion. Simple things, but done consistently throughout the day, make significant shifts in our conscious awareness.
Yes, and they're all really supportive. I agree with you about prana. As you recognize the truth of who you are more and more, you naturally move in this direction. But on the other hand, if you're wanting to recognize truth, then do what you can, even if you're doing it from the perspective of being a separate individual. Do what you can to support yourself in having a full vitality. I mean, another one you didn't mention, but I know you talk about, is even diet is important, because you'll notice most of us have foods that we really like, but we also know that some of the foods that we really like, we pay a price for energetically every time we eat them. So if you want to address your diet, just notice how you feel when you eat certain foods. And if both immediately and over the next 24 hours, and if they don't really support you in your health and your vitality, then adjust that. So we're always getting feedback through the body mind. And the more you let go and you align yourself with truth, the more positive feedback you get. But also the more you take proactive steps in advance, like you're talking about, to align yourself with things that support your body mind's energetic health, then the easier it is to be focused on truth. So the two really do support each other. At least
Yes.
that's been my experience.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's not just in addition to what I take in food, it's what I take in my environment, what I take in news. We become so addicted to, actually, people become addicted to the negative chemicals, to adrenaline and cortisol, the things that make us feel stressed out. And that's why we seek out and become addicted to, I got to hear the news, I got to focus on a bunch of the drama of life. And for me, that doesn't become supportive of the experience of awakening. That's not to say I don't listen to, or I'm not aware of what's going on. I am, but it's that feeding it constantly. So it's just an ongoing, for me, awareness of what am I feeding myself on every level, and how is that supporting my energetic system and opening to truth. Now, certainly people have had openings and awakenings in the most stressful, horrible kinds of situations.
Oh,
There
yeah,
will
that
be a
happens
spontaneous
too.
happens,
Yes, yes.
but I would rather not count on that.
Right. That's more, well, it's a more difficult path.
Yeah.
It is. Again, if you keep running against the wall, eventually you realize that that's not a good idea.
Right, right, right.
But once you do it once, you realize there's a wall there. Why not either build a doorway or find where the doorway already is
Mm-hmm.
and go through life that way? And on the other level, in my experience, there are no mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is hearing the things they need to hear are experiencing the things they need to experience, even the things that are the most challenging, are sometimes, as you just mentioned, the things that spur us to go, wait a minute, this feedback I'm getting from myself right now is not 100% positive. How can I turn this around? And that leads us first often to letting go and to trying to master our world and our environment. But even as we do that, as you mentioned earlier on, we start to discover there's something even deeper than that, more important on some level. And when we allow ourselves to focus on that, we find that the support gets even more pronounced, more obvious, more available. Lester used to say to me, life is not black or white, it's gray. And when he first said that to me, I didn't like it because I was thinking more, it's either this way or it's that way. It's not both ways.
Right.
And that's how the mind works. It's either on or off. It's either right or wrong, good or bad. And both are untrue. When you really look, you discover that there's a meeting point that's beyond whatever the particular point of view is. There's always a bigger point of view or something beyond it. And now I see what Lester was talking about. I didn't really start to see it until after Lester passed. And then I really started to see what he was talking about. And it's very important for all of us who are going in this direction, who are awakening to the truth of who we are, or we're wanting to improve our lives, or we're wanting to just be happier, to honor the resonance, what feels right to us, and trust ourselves, because the self that we truly are is all knowing. Mm-hmm. And it's the source of all wisdom. It's the source of clear reason. And that self is always trying, even though I'm personifying it a little more than it's actually true, but for the sake of us understanding it, it's always wanting what's in our highest and best good. It's always trying to help us. And it's not always encouraging us to go in directions that our mind wants or even our body wants, but there's this energy that's just carrying us in the right direction if we're willing to pay attention.
Yeah. It's when I interviewed happy people, one of the things that was universal amongst them is that they believed that this was a benevolent universe, that life was supporting them. It was for them, and it was for them to open to the higher and best good. And, Hale, as you were talking, I was thinking about, I teach a program called Your Year of Miracles. And
yes.
I in it, we talk about living in what's called the miracle zone. So the dictionary definition of a miracle is a surprise and welcome event that can't be explained by science and that's often attributed to divine grace. So we can't create miracles, they're grace.
Right.
What we can do is we can create the circumstances, the conditions for the miraculous, for miracles to flow in our life. And actually that is really what it is we're talking about here, is we're opening to this field of all possibilities, of opening to the support of life. And we have 5 guidelines, pointers. We call them the 5 foundations for living in the miracle zone. And I would just like to share them because I think it's very
please do. Absolutely.
So the first, I created a little acronym for it because I have a hard time remembering 5 of anything. So the acronym is USHER, ushering in the miracle zone.
Right.
And the USHER, the U stands for universe, and it's about trusting in the universe, that this universe is for us to open to the truth of who we are. So that's the first, is USHER, trusting in the universe. The S is soul. Listen to your soul. It's what we've been talking about here, listening to the guidance of our soul. The H is heart. Live with an open heart. I've rarely seen an awakened, or never seen a happy, deeply happy person or person who is in that flow of life who doesn't have an open heart, who doesn't have gratitude.
The two go together. Absolutely.
Forgiveness and kindness and openness like that. Then the The E is choose where you put your energy and attention. E is for energy. It's choose where you put your energy and attention, because as we know from The Secret, and also The Greatest Secret, our attention and our energy goes where our attention flows. Our energy flows where our attention goes. So we want
Well, both are true.
Yeah, that's true. And then the R is take responsibility for our life. And by responsibility, I don't mean a heavy responsibility. I mean take ownership for the fact that this is your consciousness and you are here for this.
Right.
And so I think all of those are guidelines or pointers for opening up to this awareness that we're talking of.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you brought that up. Those are all fabulous pointers. Yeah. People are very fortunate that they have all these resources from so many places. And I just really appreciate you in your earnestness and your sweetness and how much you want to help people. To me, one of the indicators that people actually are discovering the truth of who they are, they no longer live life as though it's only about me. Mm. They live life caring for all more and more. That's a universal thing I've noticed, is that the more you recognize that which you are, the more you want everyone to succeed, the more you want everyone to prosper, the more you want everyone to discover their true nature. And Marci, I feel very strongly that you're an example of that.
Thank you, Hale. Well, we are all here for the same thing, and we don't do this alone. You know, I mean, right. The ultimate is that we are all one. and before that, there's still that feeling of that connectedness. And so everybody else's awakening matters, all of us.
Right.
So, yeah. And you, Hale, are that as well. And you've always been that for me. You're always somebody that I can go to and have a deep conversation and know that you are speaking truth. And I find that to be very, very important. And I love that you're doing this podcast, because you're creating a community, you know, yes. a sangha, a group of people coming together to speak and share in truth. You know, in the Indian tradition, it's called satsang.
Yes,
and
yes.
It really helps. I think the collective consciousness of people coming together in this is a really beautiful thing. So thank you for having this podcast. Thank you for always sharing your wisdom and truth with me and with everybody.
I love Marci. She's a breath of fresh air who is able to take you from where you are into the realm of happiness, miracles, and all possibilities. To learn more about Marci Shimoff and her books and programs, such as Love for No Reason, Happy for No Reason, and Your Year of Miracles, go to her website, happyfornoreason.com. That's happyfornoreason.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.